to nominate the Connotab of St Lawrence, C-O-N-N-E.
He did tell me that joke was coming, actually. So, that's why I'm not laughing quite so much. I've got over it.
And the Connotab of St Brelard, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Are there any other nominations? In that case, I declare that the Connotab of St Lawrence and the Connotab of St Brelard have been appointed as members of the State's Employment Board. The Assembly is now due to elect a member and an associate member to represent the States of Jersey on the British-Irish Parliamentary Association. I invite nominations from the Assembly, firstly, for election of a member of the British-Irish Parliamentary Association. I remind members that ministers and assistant ministers cannot be nominated for these roles, only non-executive members. Deputy Gleave.
I'd like to nominate Deputy Jeune.
Deputy Jeune. Is the nomination seconded?
Second.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Deputy Feltham?
I'd like to nominate Deputy Coles.
Is that nomination seconded? Yes, thank you. Are there any other nominations? Thank you. We will now proceed to a secret ballot in relation to the member. Got another colour there. And what do we call that? Lilac or mauve or purple? Lilac? Lilac. All right. So members will shortly be provided with a ballot paper, and please write down the surname of the member who you wish to elect as a member of the British-Irish Parliamentary Assembly. You do not need to include your own name on the ballot unless you are the candidate, in which case you should. So to remind you, the candidates are Deputy Jeune and Deputy Coles. Yeah. I think we need to wait for the outcome of this vote, as of course the unsuccessful candidate may wish to put themselves forward for the associate membership. So we need to, I think, probably wait for the outcome of this vote. You're going to collect the, you collected the balance yet? You're going to collect the balance? Yes, yes, yeah. Balance will now be collected. Yeah.
Sir, I note that Senator Miles has just arrived in the chamber. Would it be in order for her to have a ballot, considering they're being collected?
I suppose so, yes. The voting is not formally closed. Senator Miles, it's Deputy Jern or Deputy Coles for membership of the British Irish Parliamentary Association. Thank you. We can't obviously proceed with the election of the associate member until we know the result of the election for member. We could, if members are content, move on to the appointment of members of the bailiffs consultative panel, if that wasn't too many balls in the air at once. Members content to do that? Yes, all right. There are 5 appointments to be made to the bailiffs consultative panel. I can remind members the panel comprises of some ex officio members, including the Chief Minister and the Chair of PPC, and 5 members appointed by the Assembly via secret ballot. Nominations did not need to be made in advance of today. Each nomination must be seconded, and I invite nominations to the bailiffs consultative panel. Conatable of St John.
So I'd like to propose the Constable of St Helier.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Yes. Thank you. Deputy Ferry.
Yes, sir. I'd like to propose Deputy Alex Curtis of St Clement.
Is that seconded?
Yes, sir.
Senator Miles.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to propose Deputy Stevenson.
Thank you. Is that seconded?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Conatable of St Helier.
I would like to propose Deputy Dublin, please.
Deputy?
Dublin.
Oh, sorry, my fault. Was that seconded?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to propose Deputy Tadier from St Brelade.
That's seconded? Thank you. Deputy Doublé.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to nominate the Constable of St Helier.
Oh, she's been nominated already. She's been nominated already. She can't fill 2 spaces. Deputy Binet.
I'd like to nominate Deputy Morel.
Deputy Mortman.
Sorry, Morel.
Deputy Morel, sorry, is my hearing. And is that seconded? Yes, sir. Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Right. Well, we have 6 nominations for the 5 posts. I'd remind you the Conatable of St Helier, Deputy Alex Curtis, Deputy Stevenson, Deputy Doublé, Deputy Tadier, and Deputy Morel. So we'll have a secret ballot, and in a moment I invite, you've got them ready, they're blue colour. The usher will provide the ballot papers to each member. Members should write down the names of the candidate you wish to select up to a maximum of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 names should be written down. Yes, the Conatable of St Helier, Deputy Alex Curtis, Deputy Stevenson, Deputy Doublé, Deputy Tadier, and Deputy Morel. remind you again, the Conotab of St Helier. Deputy Alex Curtis, Deputy Stevenson, Deputy Doublé, Deputy Tadier and Deputy Morel.
It must be nice to be so popular, sir. Everyone wants to work with
I
you.
need all the advice I can get, presumably. All members ready for their papers to be collected? Anyone still writing? Chief Minister still scribbling away? Rather slowly.
You can't spell Conotab.
That's probably it. Yes, I can now announce some outcomes of earlier ballots in relation to States Commissioners of the Jersey Overseas Aid Commission. For Senator Legra, there were 37 votes pour, 8 votes conch, and 1 abstention. Accordingly, she has been appointed. And in relation to Deputy Mortman, there were 37 votes pour, 8 votes conch, and 1 abstention also. So she has also been appointed as a States Commissioner. As to the contest for the member to represent the states on the British Irish Parliamentary Assembly, the outcome of the election was Deputy Jeune 31 votes, Deputy Coles 16 votes. Accordingly, Deputy Jeune has been elected as a member of the British Irish Parliamentary Association. I now invite nominations for the election of an associate member of the British Irish Parliamentary Assembly. Conotab of St Clements.
Sir, I'd like to propose Deputy Karen Shenton-Stone. Sorry, Constable Karen Shenton-Stone. I forget where I am sometimes.
That's seconded. Yes. Thank you. Deputy Feltham.
Sir, I'd like to propose Deputy Coles.
Is that seconded? Yes, sir. Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Deputy Romrell.
Yes, I'd like to nominate. I'd like to nominate Deputy Raimondo.
Thank you. That's seconded. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Any other nominations? Accordingly, we move to a secret ballot. Yes, thank you very much. Well done. When we've got an usher to hand, thank you very much. And to remind you, the candidates are the Conotab of St Martin, Deputy Coles, and Deputy Raimondo. You're just voting for one. Members all cast their votes. You can now collect the votes. Thank you. All members cast their votes. The counting may take some time, I don't know. So members are content, we will go back to the order paper and then come on to questions. Yes, so there's nothing under G or H. Under I, a number of written questions have been posed to which answers have been given. We now move on to oral questions with notice. I invite the Conotable St Helier to put the first question to the Minister for Infrastructure. Conotable St Helier.
Thank you, sir. Follow the recent incident at Victoria Marine Lake and the installation of additional safety measures. Will the Minister outline the next steps for the Marine Lake and advise when it is expected to be restored to safe public use?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. It feels strangely appropriate to be answering the first question given my reputation for asking questions in the previous Assembly. So we had a lucky escape last month. We were exceptionally fortunate that the incident on the 21st of June resulted in just minor injuries and not something much more serious. And we are, of course, thankful for that, but we cannot rely on luck again. As the Constable knows, we have therefore installed additional measures to try and improve public safety. But the key point is that it is still not safe to swim in the pool. We are now considering short-term measures that would make the site safer, whilst bearing in mind the structure's Grade 4 listing. Once we have taken whatever short-term measures are most appropriate, we then need to consider the long-term future of the marine pool alongside other investment and maintenance priorities. As things stand today, I do not know when, how, or if the marine lake will be restored to safe public use. I'm open to all options, but I would note that this is a 129-year-old structure that exists in a harsh environment that for whatever reason hasn't been properly maintained over the years and is therefore in a very poor state of repair.
Supplementary?
Thank you. And I wait for the Minister to say, I don't know when it will be restored. And it is harsh environment, but we're in 21st century. And I would like to check, if we don't know when it will be restored, would the Minister advise when does he expect to have at least to receive all assessments and to have plan to put in place, not restore? If it's several months, or what's the timeline that Minister is working into?
Minister.
Yes, sir. That's a very reasonable question. The answer is that in terms of the short-term measures that we might take, I would be expecting to decide those within a matter of weeks. They require consultation with regulation. It's a listed structure, but those short-term measures, we should be able to take decisions on those very quickly. In terms of the longer-term future, I think that's a question that I would want to discuss with the Constable, with other deputies of the area and so on, and with my ministerial colleagues. As I say, I think that decision needs to be taken in the context of our overall investment programme for infrastructure in the island.
Ms. Morrell?
Thank you, sir. I was just wondering if the Minister would ensure that demolition is one of the options that is on the list of options. Doesn't mean that demolition should take place, but sometimes a 129-year-old structure just needs to be accepted that it is time for it to go. So would the Minister ensure that demolition is one of the potential options that should be looked at?
Minister.
Yes, sir. I think I said in my first answer that I would consider all options, and clearly all options would include a removal of the structure. The Deputy will be aware that the structure is listed. Listing is a statement of significance. A listing gives guidance to society at large about what is considered significant. It is Grade 4 listed, which recognises the fact that it has been, in colloquial terms, knocked about quite a bit over the years. It is not the original structure. So that would indeed be an option. As I said earlier, though, it would be considered in the light of all the other priorities that we have for infrastructure spending.
Supplementary? Conataba Trinity.
Thank you, sir. I just wondered if the Minister would consider removing the Grade 4 listing. Thank you, sir.
Minister.
I think, sir, that would be implicit if the decision was taken that we did not wish to fund a full restoration, the cost of which I think was previously estimated, certainly by the Constable, in a proposition that she brought, or an amendment she brought to the budget, at £600,000 a year, £600,000 rather, with an ongoing expenditure of £60,000 a year, which I think are reasonable estimates. Were we to decide that we did not wish to do that, then delisting would have to be a part of that process.
Supplementary? Deputy Joan.
Thank you, sir. The former Infrastructure Minister, when discussing the amendment to the budget around funding for maintenance on the Victoria Marine Lake Pool, said that in 2025 he had spent £65,000 on the structure because his first priority was safety. Obviously, that seems to have not worked. What was the analysis from the department of that £65,000, and what deemed it unsafe now?
Minister.
Yes, I think it's very telling, in fact, that indeed my predecessor did authorise expenditure of £65,000 over the winter to repair the pool. I think it was finished around January time, and within 3 months the pool had failed again, the wall had failed again, which is indicative of the challenges that we face with that structure. It failed by undertow, so the water under hydraulic pressure of being held in found a way underneath the wall in several places. That created whirlpooling, which had the risk of sucking people down and pinning them against the wall. Therefore, the decision was taken to open the sluice gates, which would provide a faster means of the water to get out. However, it was recognised that that did not remove the risk, and indeed what happened was somebody was indeed sucked down through the sluice gates. They did at least make it through alive, but as I say, we had a very, very lucky escape. And therefore, whatever options, the short-term options we're considering have to include an option that would remove that danger.
Supplementary. Deputy Alves.
Thank you, sir. So the listing of the pool has been mentioned a number of times, and I'm just wondering whether the Minister thinks that this is the biggest hurdle to making the pool safe and or investing in it.
Minister.
No, sir, I don't think the listing is a barrier to making it safe. Listing imposes responsibilities on us when we do things to the structure. We have to consult about them and have due regard to its listed status, and that would mean that we would be dealing with regulation to make sure that they were happy with whatever steps we were taking. I don't regard that as a barrier. I think that's an appropriate thing to do when we identify an important structure, historic structure, that we have a series of checks and balances, if you like, before we undertake work. I think it represents a slightly bigger barrier to removal because it is a listed structure. But as I've already outlined, I don't think that that is a complete barrier to removal, and I am prepared to consider that as an option.
Supplementary. Questions from Deputy Feltham, Tadia and Alex Curtis, then final supplementary. Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. Given that in the answer to my written question, the Minister has confirmed that the incident took place on the 21st of June, but wasn't notified to the department until the 1st of July, and then it took almost a further week for the incident to be reported publicly. Can the Minister give us more confidence as an Assembly that action will be taken sooner, both in terms of notifying departments of such serious incidents that need their attention, but also notifying members of the public where they should avoid areas of what is significant risk?
Minister.
Well, the answer is, of course, we will act in as rapid a fashion as we can. I have a slight issue with the timeline the Deputy has outlined, because I haven't got my calendar in front of me, but I remember I was appointed on the Tuesday 2 weeks ago, and on the Wednesday I was informed late in the day of this incident, and on the Friday we made public announcements about it. But the intervening period, I had requested officers to find out more information about the nature of the incident and to explore what options were available, and that time was used to for example, do a full assessment of what warning signs were in place, and what immediate steps could be taken to remediate the situation. So that took about 48 hours, and we then made the announcements that we did. So I think that was fairly timely action, and that it didn't stop there. Over the weekend, we explored the options around the putting the line of buoys in, and that was done on the Monday morning.
Supplementary.
Yes, sir, because I do have the dates from the written question in front of me. So would the Minister undertake to assess the reason why there was a delay in the department being notified by the incident? Because that, of course, will have caused a delay in him being able to take the processes that he then did undertake very quickly. Thank you, sir.
Yes, I think it's worth just recapping a little bit what did happen. The incident happened on the 21st. However, there was no formal notification to any authority in Jersey at that time. It was a visiting school party, I understand, and we were notified sometime after the event via, I understand, sort of informal means. I was told it was to the parish hall, although the constable tells me she had no knowledge of that, and it was actually me who told her about that event. But that is how the information came to us. I think it came because parents probably complained about what had happened and wanted, to know what Jersey was doing about it. That is my supposition, but it is a supposition. So it took a while for the information to get back to Jersey, and as soon as I was made aware, I acted.
Deputy Talia.
Thanks, sir. The Minister may be aware that Chapter 6 of the Planning and Building Law 2002 talks about land condition orders. So Article 84 talking about the requirement to repair or remove ruinous and dilapidated buildings. Not sure if that applies in this case, but certainly Article 86 talking about requiring proper maintenance does give the Minister for Planning and Regulation now the authority to issue a notice in that case. Does the Minister for DFI believe that it would be helpful for the newly elected Minister for Planning to issue such a notice to facilitate the work that he needs to do and give a steer on what the Planning Minister thinks should be done with that site.
So I think the Deputy raises a good question. I'll be very happy to consult with my newly elected colleague. But I would note that throughout the time that we have been dealing with this structure, certainly the timeline I have goes back as far as about 2014, 2012 actually, I think, it has been dealt with by the Infrastructure Department as a question of maintenance of an asset rather than as a dilapidated structure. So I think the precedent is that it's been dealt with as you would with a building that needs maintenance work rather than as a dilapidated or ruinous structure.
Supplementary.
And with that in mind, sir, given the fact that it does have a listing, albeit of a grade 4 listing, does the Minister think that it's important government leads by example, and in the absence of any desire, if it transpires that government doesn't want to remove the listing, that it leads by example and maintains its listed structures so that they can be enjoyed and it certainly not pose any health risks to the public who would want to use them?
So I think I've already spoken at some length about my attitude to the listing. Listing is an index of importance, and it tells us that that structure has considerable historical and cultural significance. It does not say that it must be maintained at whatever cost at all times, for all time. And we are entitled to take a rational view about where we wish to put our resources. And I note that the previous Assembly voted against an amendment to the budget that would have allocated what I think is a reasonable estimate of what the funds would be. So I absolutely believe that listing is important, that government should take its listing responsibilities very seriously, but it also has overall responsibilities to consider the best allocation of resources.
Deputy Alex Curtis.
Thank you, sir. The Minister said that review of the work needed must be taken in the context of the wider investment programme. So will he explain where the work on the Marine Lake falls priority-wise within the wider investment demands that are placed on his portfolio?
Minister.
Well, as it is an important piece of asset for the island, but it is a very old structure and a very dilapidated structure. I would point out that the department is carrying a backlog of maintenance on the property estate of a considerable size, and therefore decisions about where the greatest priority lie have to be taken in the context of that overall estate and and where operationally we most need that money spent. So what I'm not going to do is say that this rockets to the top of the priority list. It does not.
Supplementary. Final supplementary, Conor Tarbison-Hellier.
Thank you, sir. And the £600,000 were raised several times, but actually I never managed to get a clear answer from the government how much it will cost. And my question to the new infrastructure minister, what repair options is the minister considering for Victoria Marine Lake, and would he commit to publish or to share evidence-based estimates cost for each option, that we actually would know the number and what's possible?
Minister.
The second bit is easy. Yes, I will commit to consult and discuss and publish whatever information I am able to achieve. But I would say, in terms of the options I'm considering, I should say that the short-term options that I'm considering, which I think are very important to bear in mind, because we do have a significant safety risk here. The two options that are most immediately likely to be considered are pouring a lot of concrete to plug the existing holes that we have. The advantage of that is that, at least in the short term, it brings the pool back into use. The disadvantage is that it could fail again at any moment, and we may not know that it has failed because of the method in which the water goes underneath. And therefore, there would be ongoing continuous maintenance costs. The other option is to make a breach in the wall, which would mean that the water flowed out unimpeded as soon as the tide started to go out. The disadvantage would be that it would no longer be a pool. The advantage would be that we would have removed the safety hazard and we would have safeguarded the remaining bits of the wall because they would not be subject to the same hydraulic pressure that is currently undermining the structure. Those two options need to be costed up. They need to be discussed with regulation to see how they view them in the light of the listing status. Those are the two immediate options that are under consideration in the department. The longer term options, as I said, would come forward in due course.
Thank you, Minister. I'm now going to pause to give the results of the two outstanding elections in relation to the Associate Member of the British Irish Parliamentary Assembly. The result is the Conotab of St Martin, 22 votes, Deputy Coles, 12 votes, Deputy Raimondo, 11 votes. According to the Conotab of St Martin, is elected an Associate Member of the British Irish Parliamentary Association.
So can I just check the voting? Does it not go to a second round if the first is not? I might be wrong.
No, not in relation to that, no. And there's one abstention as well. Now, in relation to the Bailiffs Consultative Panel, the Conotab of St Helier received 35 votes. Deputy Tadia received 31 votes. Deputy Alex Curtis and Deputy Stevenson both received 30 votes. Deputy Morell received 27 votes. Deputy Doublé received 20 votes. And Deputy Porry, who wasn't standing, received 1 vote. So, congratulations to her. So the Conotab of St Helier, Deputy Tadia, Alex Curtis and Stevenson Morell are appointed members of the Bailiffs Consultative Panel. The second question, the Conotab of St Martin will put to the Chief Minister. Conotab of St Martin.
Thank you, sir. Will the Chief Minister commit the government to continuing support of the automatic voter registration AVR project until the system delivers the functionality necessary to meet the requirements of the Elections Jersey Law 2002 to the satisfaction of the parishes and to ensuring that sufficient funding is provided to achieve that functionality? Thank you.
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. As part of the automatic voter registration project, a formal lessons learned exercise is currently underway. That includes feedback from those involved in delivering the system, together with an independent review workshop facilitated by the chair of the Jersey Electoral Authority. That work will help identify any areas where the current system can be improved to better meet both the requirements of the elections, Jersey law, and the operational needs of the parishes. And can I just take this opportunity to thank the parishes for the excellent work they did under pressure on the run-up to the election. The objective of the automatic voter registration was to remove unnecessary barriers to democratic participation by replacing the previous manual registration process with a modern automatic system. So in respect, the project has already helped deliver a significant benefit. The number of registered electors increased from 60,701 in 2022 to 85,470 for the 2026 general election, an increase, a sizable increase. However, ongoing refinement, support and continuous improvements are necessary to ensure the system continues to meet the needs of users and maintains that close consistency between government data and the parish electoral register, sir. So in short, the answer to the question is yes, any funding requirements will of course need to be considered through the normal budget process and assembly approval. The government is committed to working with the parishes and all stakeholders to ensure the automatic voter registration system continues to evolve and delivers functionality required to strengthen and encourage participation in our democratic process.
Supplementary.
Thank you, sir. And I'm delighted that the Chief Minister has made that commitment. And so it's almost redundant, but it was just to get it out. Everyone thinks that the AVR is used, well, lots of people think it's only used every 4 years. But AVR is not only needed every 4 years, it is needed on a weekly basis in the parishes, and it's especially needed for centennial elections and procurator elections, and that's why it's so imperative that we don't close the project down. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Coles.
Thank you,
Sorry,
sir.
Was there a question there?
So would you agree that it's really
yes.
needed for those?
I agree, sir.
Yes. Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. Can the Chief Minister commit to considering future candidates in the general elections as one of the user groups in this and ensure that the data provided is clear and easier for candidates to follow and understand?
Chief Minister.
I'm not sure I'm not sure how appropriate it would be to have candidates involved in the process, but certainly no objection to all relevant stakeholders being involved, but that will probably be a decision for the Jersey Electoral Authority at the appropriate time, sir.
Supplementary.
Thank you, sir. I mean, maybe it's more to set on record rather than to ask the Chief Minister himself, but some of the data that was provided through the AVR and then via the parishes had addresses that didn't line up because of flat numbers, house numbers, and things like that. So stakeholder engagement would include candidates from an election. So would the Chief Minister do what he can to ensure that they are considered?
So, as I said previously, the government will do everything it can do to ensure the data that is shared between the government and the parishes is accurate as possible. And this was, I think we've made a good start, but there's still quite a way to go. Thank you.
Colin Tarbell-St-Helier.
Thank you, sir. As Conatable of St. Martin explained, the data is required for parishes ongoing during these 4 years because this data used at the parish assembly, for example, or committees or others. Would the Chief Minister advise if the ongoing AVR project will ensure that once change of name and address provided to the government, one of the government departments, it will be rolled across immediately to the parishes system as well, because we are using AVR system as our to-go system now.
Chief Minister.
Yes, so that certainly is the intention.
Supplementary.
Nothing.
The Conatable of St John, then Deputy Feltham, then the Conatable of St Clement, then final supplementary. Conatable of St John.
Thank you, sir. So I also welcome the Chief Minister's mention of the great work that was done in the parishes, particularly by the electoral administrators and all the ASUAs who worked on the day. So the Chief Minister mentioned feedback. Can the Chief Minister confirm who has been asked to provide that feedback? Thank you.
Chief Minister.
I can't list that, sir, because I don't know. The work on the feedback is being facilitated by the Chair of the Jersey Electoral Authority, and I'm sure they'll share all of their findings with the government when they've finished that piece of work.
Supplementary.
Yes, sir. I can tell the Chief Minister that the feedback has been requested from a very small group of people, and I'd ask him to consider extending the breadth of the feedback and also the time allowed for the feedback. Thank you, sir.
Chief Minister.
I thank the Conatable for alerting me to that fact, so I'll certainly follow that up. Thank you.
Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. My question follows on actually nicely from the question posed by the Constable of St Helier, because it relates to the Tell Us Once process, because the automatic voter registration will only work properly if there is a Tell Us Once process in place, whereby when somebody reports their change of circumstances, change of address, it goes across all systems, all departments and the parishes. So will the Chief Minister commit to providing that project with the resources that it requires so it can be finally done properly?
Chief Minister.
Yes, I understood it did have the resources required, sir, but I will make sure it does. So I think it's important to reiterate the importance of our democratic, involving the public as much as possible in the democratic process, sir, so that will be a high priority.
Supplementary.
Yes, I will take this opportunity because I know that we've quite rightly thanked all of the parishes, but could the Chief Minister also extend his thanks to the civil servants that worked very hard on this project as well?
Chief Minister.
Yes, sir, and I thank the Deputy for reminding the Assembly of the work, the huge amount of dedication required to make sure we had a successful election, sir, should be recognised. And I join her in that recognition. Thank you.
Constable St Clement.
Sir, my question's been answered through the Constable of St John.
Thank you. Final supplementary, Constable St Martin.
No, I'd just like to thank the Chief Minister for his assurances that AVR will continue.
Thank you. The third question, Deputy Joan, will put to the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Deputy Joan.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister explain the rationale for charging a separate stamp duty on residential mortgages from the stamp duty charged on property purchases, and will he commit to a review of stamp duty on residential mortgage transactions in order to determine whether it can be reduced or removed?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Stamp duty is a tax on a wide range of documents that are registered in the Royal Court. Under the current system, I should make it clear that no stamp duty is payable on residential mortgages for properties valued below £600,000. Historically, documents registered in the Royal Court have attracted stamp duty, including mortgage deeds, seemingly for revenue-raising purposes. That has been the position in Jersey for many years. Whether that historical justification in relation to residential mortgages is appropriate today is, in my view, a legitimate question. Accordingly, I've asked officers to review the continued case for this charge as part of the work towards Budget 2027, which will be lodged at the end of September. I should add that the duty currently raises around £2.5 to £3 million a year, and if it were reduced or indeed removed, that loss of revenue would need to be offset elsewhere to support the need for balanced budgets. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary.
Yes, sir, and thank the Minister for his answer, and especially to look at a review. And maybe to follow on from his answer, has the Treasury Minister or the Treasury ever assessed whether this duty discourages right-sizing, older islanders downsizing or growing families moving to larger homes, given that the refinancing concession does not apply to new purchasing, as the Minister said, but also given the future housing needs report finds that Jersey's core housing mismatch is now about the wrong size of homes sitting with the wrong households?
Minister.
Yes, sir. The Deputy asks a very valid question. I can say, as far as I'm aware, that Treasury has never looked at that particular issue, although the discussion has now been had. So we will, I can give an undertaking to the Deputy, have that as part of the consideration. It's not a straightforward issue, but we believe it's something that certainly needs looking at to make certain that appropriate properties are released, if indeed there is a desire to do so. But it's not that straightforward, unfortunately.
Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. I know that the Senator wasn't in the last Assembly, but in the last budget it was approved by this Assembly and the current Chief Minister to look at a right-sizing policy which included a stamp duty holiday. Is this going to be looked at for this budget?
Minister.
As far as I'm aware, a full suite of issues are going to be looked at as far as the budget is concerned. Again, it will come down to affordability, of course, which is a major aspect that we need to consider, and the need to balance budgets. But I will take that point away that the Deputy raises and give it due consideration.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir. Will the Minister concede, though, that at least when you have a property transaction, if one person doesn't pay stamp duty, the purchaser still will be paying stamp duty, and therefore revenue will still be raised?
Minister.
Indeed, revenue will be being raised, and it is a question of balancing that revenue to make sure that it's fiscally neutral.
Deputy Tadia.
So is the Treasury Minister aware of any other jurisdiction which charges a stamp duty when people borrow money?
Minister.
Less and less so, it seems. There are, though, cases. I'm not sure I should mention the United States, but there are various states over there that charge. I believe that India and Nigeria do as well. So there are a few, but a diminishing number, and that's why I've given an undertaking to look at this matter. I'm not sure in a modern tax system it is necessarily appropriate. But again, I repeat the point that whatever changes we put in place need to be handled carefully and with the focus on being fiscally neutral.
Supplementary?
So I know that the Minister might be more of a pragmatist than a philosopher, but if I could ask a philosophical question about the basis for stamp duty per se, would he consider going back to the very root of why stamp duty is charged at all, whether it's on borrowing or on properties, given the fact that it's actually charged on the buyer, not on the seller, and that it is making people, properties less affordable for people right across the board, especially when they need to borrow money, to see if a fairer tax could be introduced that doesn't discourage home ownership, but that actually targets people who actually have the capital or the wealth to pay such taxes.
Minister.
So there are quite a number of jurisdictions who have looked at stamp duty and many economists who have an opinion that it's not a good tax. I think that's fair to say. In Jersey terms, it raises in the region of 60 to 65 million a year. Most of these other jurisdictions also raise significant amounts of money. So that revenue needs to be replaced. And finding an alternative that actually works is not, again, that straightforward. And I think that's at the heart of the issue.
Deputy Jeune, final supplementary.
Yes, sir, and I may not formulate this in the best way, but the answers that we're hearing from the Treasury Minister is mainly around fiscal neutrality and the issue of needing to raise revenue. But at the same time, we've heard from the Minister when he was as being a senator in the elections to be senator, and other senators who are now council ministers, recognising that housing is a real concern in Jersey and that we need to ensure that we can have that flow of the housing market and be able to ensure that the islanders have the right size housing when they need it. How will he work with other ministers, but also his Treasury colleagues, to ensure that there is looking beyond that fiscal neutrality or that revenue raising only, but actually looking at a wider, more long-term picture, where then it really is the need for housing kind of overrides potentially the need for revenue for one particular year?
Minister.
So I think the point is about neutrality. It doesn't mean that we can't direct funds to the priority areas where they're absolutely needed. Working with colleagues, sir, I am very keen and focused, as the Deputy, and I'm sure members in this Assembly are, of ensuring we have the right available property at appropriate prices. I think the appointment of the good Senator in front of me, sir, and his desire to, as Planning Minister, to open up the system and ensure that we get properties built and built quickly will help. Supply is an important issue, without question. I think a joined-up approach to make sure that all ministers are focused on the need to get property onto the market and at the right price. I don't think any of the points that I've made, and particularly around stamp duty, are going to be a barrier to property purchase. As I've said, we have on the stamp duty mortgage issue an exemption level up to £600,000. In fact, what I didn't mention, there's also a taper which goes up to £700,000. So that's before it kicks in at all. But we're reviewing that. Stamp duty itself has exemptions. Maybe we need to look at being slightly more generous with those, if we possibly can, for first-time buyers. So that's another area that could get a little bit of attention, perhaps. A package of measures, I think, to support the local market is important.
Thank you, Minister. Question 4, Deputy Lee, will put to the Minister for Children and Families. Deputy Lee.
Thank you, sir. In relation to the number of the referrals received by the Children and Families Hub each year, will the Minister advise what assessment has been carried out on the impact of the school holidays on the identification of children at risk? And if no assessment has been carried out, will he agree to undertake such an assessment? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for this question. I spoke with the Deputy at the end of this morning's session, and in fact, there were things that I actually wasn't going to mention, which I probably will now, as she's encouraged me to do so. So, in fact, assessment of numbers that come through the hub actually didn't take place actually prior to me becoming minister. And so the first data that we have of actual numbers only starts in July 2023. And I have to say that I'm pleased that, this is an area that I I was keen to concentrate on, and that we, over the last 2 years, really this service has come on an enormous amount, and there are new structures in place. I won't go through the individual monthly numbers, but I've agreed to meet with Deputy Lee, and we will share that information directly with her. So the Children and Family Hub demand is monitored through regular performance reporting. The volume and themes of contacts, together with their outcomes, are reviewed monthly at an operational performance meeting to support the service delivery and identify emerging issues. And of course, that's critical in, as I spoke about on another question recently, emerging issues are obviously the situation can change dramatically. A more detailed strategic review is undertaken quarterly. These reviews consider volume, but are also focused on qualitative insights. Additional analysis is undertaken on performance information across the service, including that relating to missing children and child exploitation, as well as potential locations of concern. This information informs a strategic multi-agency risk management panel, which ensures a strategic overview of areas of concern to ensure an effective and multi-agency response. Around 30% of our referrals to Children and Families Hubs are submitted by schools. Typically, referral numbers...
Minister, your answer's reached 2 minutes now.
Oh,
There's a
sorry.
It's been a long answer.
Right, thank you.
Informal target
but
of
I'm
90 seconds.
happy to share more with the deputy. It's a wide area, sir, so it's difficult. Yes.
Supplementary?
Thank you, sir. And I thank the Minister for answering. I'm looking forward to receiving such data and findings to our panel. And given the school holidays is by the corner right now, will the assessment cover the summer, this summer, not just the future ones?
Minister.
Right, so yes, the summer is something that we've recognised is a crucial period. In June and July, we actually undertake work with head teachers and teachers, and we encourage them to bring forward those children who might not necessarily have reached the bar normally for a referral, so that we're aware of those children during the holiday period. We have outreach workers during the holiday period. We also cover events such as music festivals, and we also cover those areas that I referred to before where we know children congregate. And through that, I am satisfied that we fill that gap during the holidays, and I look forward to, talking to the Deputy further about that.
Thank you, Minister. Question 5, Deputy Coles, will put to the Chief Minister. Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. The UN Commission of Inquiry in June 2026 stated that Israeli forces deliberately carried out attacks inflicting death, severe bodily and mental harm on hundreds of thousands of Palestinian children, and concluded the acts formed part of a deliberate strategy to destroy the future of the Palestinians in Gaza by targeting their children. Is the Chief Minister prepared to use his voice to condemn the genocide happening in Palestine?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. I share the Deputy's profound concern for civilians, and particularly children in Gaza. The findings of the June 2026 report of the United Nations Independent International Commission of Inquiry are exceptionally grave. The Commission concluded that Israeli authorities and security forces deliberately targeted Palestinian children, and that this conduct resulted in genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes in Gaza. I condemn without reservation the killing, suffering, forced displacement, and profound psychological harm suffered by Palestinian children, and I equally condemn all conduct that targets civilians on any side. I would, however, remind members, sir, that the Commission is an independent UN investigative body, and the final judicial determination of genocide, sir, remains a matter for the competent international courts. That distinction does not lessen the seriousness of the Commission's evidence or conclusions, sir, which cannot be ignored. Israel has the right to defend its population against terrorism. However, that must be exercised in accordance with international law. Nothing can justify the death and suffering to civilians on such a devastating scale. While Jersey does not determine foreign policy, we are not prevented from speaking out in support of international law and fundamental humanitarian principles. We must continue to advocate for the immediate and unhindered delivery of humanitarian assistance, a permanent ceasefire, and a diplomatic settlement that delivers a lasting peace, security, dignity and justice for both the Palestinian and the Israeli peoples. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary.
Yes, thank you, sir. So I'm planning to hear that the Chief Minister does condemn this act and uses the term genocide in his response. The UK is set to have a new Prime Minister on Monday. As one of the acts for the Chief Minister, would he write to the UK Prime Minister to voice that same concern?
Chief Minister.
So I have consistently spoken out where I believe international humanitarian law has been breached, and I will continue to do so. So in discussions with UK ministers on this topic, I have reaffirmed Jersey's support for the UK applying all means at its disposal to ensure this happens, working with international partners and local organisations to get help where it is most needed, sir. I will follow up this discussion with the Minister for External Relations, and it's certainly something we would be prepared to mention to the new administration, sir, when we meet with them. Thank you.
Deputy Carpenter.
Thank you, sir. I welcome and agree with the sentiment expressed by the Chief Minister in his initial response. I would like to press him a little on the fact that the question did specifically refer to genocide. Could the Chief Minister please confirm whether he agrees with experts such as Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, the Israeli human rights organisation B'Tselem, Doctors Without Borders, Oxfam, Christian Aid, the International Association of Genocide Scholars, Amos Goldberg, the Jewish Israeli Holocaust Professor at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Omar Bartov, the Israeli Dean's Professor of Holocaust Studies at Brown University, Raz Segal, the Israeli historian and Professor of Genocide and Holocaust Studies at Stockton University. I could go on, sir, the list is extensive. Could the Chief Minister please confirm whether he agrees with these experts that we are witnessing a genocide take place in Gaza?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. As I said in my opening in my remarks, I condemn without reservation the suffering that's currently going on. And I reminded members that the Commission is an independent investigative body, and the other organisations, respected and credible organisations that the Deputy mentioned, make points, very valid and distinct points, sir, which does not lessen the seriousness of the evidence they provide. But I remind members again that they are not courts, sir, and the determination of genocide remains a matter for the competent international courts in due course, sir. So while I, it's difficult to say, sir, because I haven't studied every single article and piece of evidence in detail, and I will defer to the international court, sir. But I am absolutely appalled at the actions taken by the Israeli authorities, sir, which has caused death and suffering to a large amount of civilians, sir, for which I think there can be no justifiable reason.
Supplementary. Deputy Talia.
So the Chief Minister has already referred to the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court, which I think he respects. Could he clarify that when it comes to the arrest warrant that was issued for the current Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, that there is still currently a warrant out for his arrest for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity? Does the Chief Minister recognise the validity of that arrest warrant?
Chief Minister.
Well, sir, again, sir, I haven't studied the detail of the arrest warrant, and I'm not sure what the position of the UK government is on that. We align our foreign policy with that of the UK government, sir. So whilst I might agree in principle that the perpetrators of such humanitarian actions, sir, should be held to account, I'm not in a position, sir, but I don't have the full detail to hand, sir, to comment on that right now.
Supplementary.
Thank you. It's a strange position to take, I think, sir, given the fact that previous answers said that the Chief Minister recognised the International Criminal Court and that they should decide on matters of
but
whether...
the question about the warrant is beyond the question that the Chief Minister was asked. It's beyond the original question. I allowed it, but it is beyond the original question.
So to bring it back, so whether it's to do with genocide or the immediately related issues to what's going on in the Middle East in this regard, does the Chief Minister, can he give an assurance that he supports the upholding of international law and the recognising of international institutions such as the ICC, sir?
Chief Minister.
I think I did allude to that, sir, in my opening remarks, and I do absolutely, and I hope I speak on behalf of all islanders when I say we continue to support international law and at all times. I can't really add much more. I think it's in strength and personal feeling to what I've already said, sir, and we will see what happens in the fullness of time. And as I said, it's certainly a matter I'm prepared to discuss further with the External Relations Minister and the UK or new UK administration when we meet with them.
Deputy Coles, final supplementary. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Minister. Question 6, Deputy Doublé will put to the Chief Minister. Deputy Doublé.
Thank you, sir. Will the Chief Minister advise whether he is aware of the reference to child poverty in Jersey within the UN Economic and Social Council's concluding observations on the 7th periodic report of the UK, and if so, what plans he has to address the concerns raised therein?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. I'm aware of the United Nations observations on the United Kingdom's 7th periodic report. These observations relate to the UK as a state party and include matters relevant to the Crown dependencies and the overseas territories. Jersey has also provided a formal response. The committee raised concerns about child poverty and the impact this can have on children's rights, sir, and life chances. These are concerns that the government shares. The government recognises that growing up in a household experiencing financial hardship affects children's health, education, well-being and future opportunities. Tackling affordability and improving living standards are therefore central priorities for this Council of Ministers and will form an important part of the forthcoming Common Strategic Policy. We have already begun discussions on further measures to support families, building on existing initiatives such as expanded childcare support, reduced GP charges, school meals, housing supply, and measures of targeted increased income support, sir. Ultimately, sustainable reductions in child poverty require both support for those most in need and a strong, growing economy that creates good jobs, rising incomes and opportunities for all families to thrive. So to that end, we continue to work across government and with scrutiny and members, sir, to improve outcomes for all children and young people with the aim of eradicating child poverty in the fullness of time.
Supplementary.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Chief Minister for his answer, and I think it's clear that this issue is important to him and I hope important to all of the ministers, and it's really positive to hear that it's going to be one of the key priorities within the CSP. With that in mind, would the Chief Minister agree to meet with myself and with the group behind the letter that was sent around today, I believe, which all members will have had, which outlines some of the issues in this area and asks for a meeting to make an action plan to tackle it?
Chief Minister.
Yes, sir, and I thank the Deputy for sharing with me that letter earlier. I had received it, sir, but basically for members' benefit, the letter reported that many families struggling with the cost of living, including housing, childcare cost, incomes not keeping up with inflation. The letter stated, so I'm not sure if this is true, that 1 in 4 children are in relative low income households, and more than a third of households are experiencing financial difficulty. And the group also argued that current support systems are fragmented and difficult to navigate. So these are things that we need to address as a matter of urgency, sir. And I and the relevant government ministers will be pleased to meet with all stakeholders, sir, who can help us deliver the solutions we need.
Helia.
Thank you, sir. It's very well known that the high proportion of the children in poverty are St. Helier residents, and would the Chief Minister engage with myself and the parish and include to ensure that we'll tackle as a targeted support for St. Helier as residents as well?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. Yes, of course, we will meet with the Constable. I'm not sure we can give separate or targeted report on a parish-by-parish basis, because I think we have to look at the problem island-wide, but the Constable can rest assured that the government will work closely with her and relevant parties.
Since I was elected, I have received several communications from the families that they are not in receiving of income support from various reasons, including not eligible as they're less than 5 years in Jersey, but the families are still experiencing the same difficulties with cost of living and living in the poverty. Is it anything that the Council of Ministers have considered to look at for the residents that they have children and they're less than 5 years in Jersey?
Chief Minister.
I'm looking to the former Social Security Minister, and that's something that has certainly been discussed, but I need to pick that up with the new Minister. So I think when it comes to supporting or getting behind our commitment to children, so we need to have consider all known cases of child poverty or hardship, regardless of particular status, so that can present its own challenges. But I think this Assembly has undertaken to put children first at all times.
Final supplementary. Deputy Dubley.
Thank you, sir. One of the points outlined within this letter was understanding where the current systems are falling short. And indeed, the Chief Minister mentioned some data around a quarter of children living in poverty, and he wasn't sure if that was the case. And I can assure him it is indeed the case. And would he commit to including in this work some data collection? Because I'm aware that Jersey doesn't actually collect and have the same measures that other jurisdictions do, and therefore this problem is largely hidden. So would he make sure that understanding the problem in terms of data collection, that is part of the work in this area?
Chief Minister.
Yes, sir, we don't actually, I think, have a legal definition of child poverty, and we use stats, we use Statistics Jersey collect stats that we use, but they could be better designed, sir, to target the problem. I think in any challenge, sir, in any problem, the way to solve it is by understanding it fully. We don't fully understand the child poverty issue in Jersey as yet, although we are making good progress there. So to solve the problem, we have to fully understand it. I agree with the Deputy.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Question 7, Deputy Andrews will put to the Minister for Education and Lifelong Learning. Deputy Andrews.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise whether consideration has been given to producing an education-specific human capital strategy for the island, and if not, why not?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. So as I'm sure States members know, a human capital strategy, in kinder words, is a strategy to recruit and retain, to manage and develop the people who make up the workforce, in this case for education. A strategy, while useful, is sometimes not sufficiently flexible, and we are facing a new and different challenge over the next few years, as we need to reshape our workforce and education system more generally to reflect a falling number of children and young people consequent of a sustained drop in birth rate. In this environment, some elements of a people plan remain critical, like investment in learning and development to support improvements in the capability of our workforce. Other elements of a people plan change in their focus. For example, less emphasis on external recruitment and more emphasis on flexibility of our existing workforce. So what I expect to see are the core components of a plan, and in my early days in role, I have seen evidence of much of this content, reassuring me that we have an appropriately clear focus on our workforce, and I will continue to expect this focus and to see evidence of these approaches throughout my time as Minister. Consequently, at this time, I do not see the requirement for a new and specific strategy, as the Deputy suggests. Instead, confident that the core activities required are in place, I will continue to require evidence of this focus, clarity on where we can improve, and clear actions to deliver these improvements.
Supplementary?
Yes, please, sir. Would the Minister agree that more probably should be done, especially for Year 9, Year 10 and Year 11, to prepare them for when the time is right, for when they are to enter the labour force? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
So we're looking at all of these points at the moment. Some of the children, of course, come under the Special Educational Needs and Disabilities section. And at the moment, there's work going on to bring in more continuous professional development for staff, which is being monitored. So this will make a difference to those particular children in those year groups. But it's early days in the role, and I can assure the Deputy that that is also being looked at as a whole.
Thank you, Minister. Question 8, Deputy Jern will put to the Chief Minister. Deputy Jern.
Thank you, sir. Following his nomination speech, where he spoke about the importance of sustainable energy and committed to focus on this, will the Chief Minister advise which types of renewable energy incentives and government actions will be prioritised during this term?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. The Minister for the Environment has overall responsibility for energy policy and is continuing to develop an evidence-based energy strategy for Jersey in accordance with the decision of the Assembly P11/2025, as amended, sir. That work is intended to provide a long-term framework that balances affordability, energy security, market competitiveness, and Jersey's carbon reduction commitments. As part of that work, government will consider the role that proven renewable energy technologies can play in Jersey's future energy mix, including offshore wind, solar, tidal, alongside wider issues such as energy resilience, electricity demand, and storage and grid capacity. The strategy will also consider what incentives may be appropriate to encourage the uptake of renewable and low-carbon technologies, recognising that any such measures must represent value for money and be supported by robust evidence. Alongside the energy strategy, the government will continue to support practical measures that improve energy efficiency, sir, reduce reliance on fossil fuels, encourage the electrification of transport and heating where appropriate, and strengthen Jersey's long-term energy security. While it would be premature to preempt the conclusions of the energy strategy, I can assure the Deputy and members that the government remains committed to delivering a secure, affordable and sustainable energy system, sir, that supports islanders, businesses and our environmental ambitions long into the future. Thank you.
Supplementary?
Yes, sir, and I thank the Chief Minister for his comprehensive answer. Would the Chief Minister say what specific financial incentives would he encourage the Environment Minister to introduce, such as grants or loans or others, for households or businesses for renewable installations? And when will the islanders be able to access these or be able to see these come into fruition? And will it become part of the next budget, 2027?
Those are all matters up for consideration as part of the strategy. I don't have a list. Some of the things we've tried have worked very well. I think some have been poorly targeted. We need to make sure that our journey, our environmental journey, leads us to where we want to be, but it has to be supported by islanders, so we have to have the right incentives. The incentives are not just paying islanders to reduce their carbon footprint, but it's also making sure that the implications and dare I use the word regulation in front of our new regulation minister is practical and affordable and realistic for islanders moving forward. And I know the Environment Minister is already thinking in advance about the best way to do that. So what I will undertake to do is ensure the government works closely with scrutiny. I think this needs to be as joint a piece of work as we possibly can. There should be no tension here. There should be no juxtaposition. We should all be working towards what we want to achieve. Not least, given I know, Jersey, what we do here will have very, very little impact on the globe, sir, but we've now suffering our third heat wave in as many months, sir. So I think that is a wake-up call to all the citizens of this planet, and if everybody plays their part, we should make some progress.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Question 9, Deputy Coles will put to the Minister for Infrastructure. Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. Further to the Minister's recent statement in the media that the Infrastructure and Environment Department's budget will not be sufficient to meet its objectives, will he outline which projects he'll prioritise this term during his...
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I think it's important to start by clarifying that the interview I gave to the BBC when I was opening a children's playground, which I presume is what the Deputy is referring to when he talks about my recent statement in the media, was no different in substance to the nomination statement I made in the Assembly 2 weeks ago. I said to the BBC, I think infrastructure needs more money than it currently has, and I added an important qualification. Whether we do that by reprioritisation, by raising more money, staggering, and perhaps not being as ambitious, I don't yet know. So the media are entitled to take part of what I say and make a headline, but I was clear to the BBC and to this Assembly that there is a balance to be struck, that infrastructure budgets have to be considered in the light of other priorities, and I stick to that. In answer to the Deputy's question directly regarding which projects will be prioritised, I'm still assessing infrastructure priorities which will need to be viewed through the lens of public safety, economic significance, value for money, alignment with strategic goals, and many other factors. And as soon as I'm able to bring forward a programme of infrastructure investment, I will do so. But I would say this, and slightly echoing the Chief Minister's comments, as much as possible, the infrastructure investment plans that I bring forward will need to be co-produced, both with colleagues in government, in scrutiny, and across the Assembly. We will need as much buy-in as possible, because this needs to be a programme which caters for the long-term needs of the island.
Supplementary.
Yes, thank you, sir. I'm glad that the Minister used such terms as he did in his answer, sir, because a lot of those, I think personally, as representative of St Helier South, point to the shoreline management plan, because the strategic goals about public safety, value for money, and also good for our economy. Does the Minister strongly agree that that project should be one of the ones on his priority list?
Minister.
Tempting, but I'm not going to leap in, having just said I would consider all the priorities. What I would say is that I would also see all the infrastructure investments we have to make through the lens of what I think will be one of the overriding objectives of this government, which is to improve economic competitiveness. And basic infrastructure is, of course, a key part of that. But the exact balance and the sequencing, the scale of each investment project and so on is something that I'm not prepared to sort of opine on right now. I think we do have to consider more, but I'm very pleased to note that the Deputy has been chosen to sit on the scrutiny panel, and I look forward to sharing plans with him and discussing them with him as soon as I can.
Thank you, Minister. Question 10, the Conatawal St Helier will put to the Minister for the Environment. Conatawal St Helier.
Thank you, sir. Further to extension of time dangerous building notice issued in respect of 106 and 108 Rouge Bouillon, will the Minister advise when the road and footpaths are expected to reopen fully and what actions will be taken if the required works are not completed within the extended period?
Minister.
Sir, can I query this? Because we did ask that should this come to me, bearing in mind we now have a Minister for Regulations. I'm happy to take it, but I just thought it was more appropriate for that person to answer it.
Well, it's a question to you unless the questioner agrees to another minister responding to it. Are you content for the Minister for Planning and Regulation to respond to this question?
Absolutely, thank you, sir.
Sir, I thank the Connotab for the question. Despite the 6-week time frame provided to enable the property owners to appoint contractors and undertake the necessary work, progress was not made to address the matter. Therefore, the Regulation Directorate exercised powers under Article 69 of the Planning and Building Law to enter the land and carry out the works required to make the structure safe. Works commenced on Saturday and are anticipated to take up to 2 weeks to complete. The Directorate has worked with the landowners throughout this process and remain committed to ensuring that the necessary measures are implemented as quickly as possible in the interest of public safety. Sir.
Supplementary?
Yes, absolutely. I'm grateful for the Minister that, and I'm grateful for the government to take in and started to do the work and it will be completed within 2 weeks. Would the Minister confirm that the charge for this work will be buried by the owners or the insurance and not by the public?
Minister.
So it would be the intention to recover the cost of the work from the property owners as required or as permitted in the law.
Connotab of Trinity.
Thank you, sir. I wonder if the Minister would be kind enough to look into the length of time it has taken to get this sorted, because it has been very difficult because there are a lot of diversions come down Trinity Road, and then there's been a further very long wait at these traffic lights. And I think it has been a very long process. And I just wondered if in future we might be able to make it shorter. Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Sir, I find myself greatly frustrated with the time to do things in this Assembly in various respects, and this is one of them. The fact is we have had to comply with the law. The dangerous structure notice was initially issued for 4 weeks, which was a reasonable time frame to obtain the necessary surveys, appoint contractors, and for the work to be carried out. At the end of the 4-week period, there seemed to be agreement between the separate owners to appoint contractors, and therefore a further 2-week extension was granted, which was not unreasonable under the circumstances. However, progress stalled and no actions had been taken on the expiry of the extended period. So I also regret the time frame, but we have to do things in accordance with procedures, and I do hope the work will be completed as quickly as possible. I understand the problems it's causing. So.
Supplementary. Dr. Feltham.
Thank you, sir. Given the Minister's answer to the previous question and noting what he said previously in his speech, what improvements has he seen that could be made to make the timescale more improved in future time, and what action will he take?
Senator.
So that's a really good question. It is not easy. There are multiple owners of the property. If it was a single owner, then that might be different. They also have to consider what the insurance aspects are, and these things also take time. Personally, I welcome the shortening of all time scales for almost everything, and I undertake that we'll have a look at this, but one has to give reasonable notice to the people concerned. If we fail to do that, we could be equally criticised, but I do undertake we'll look at them. And what we could have done is say at the end of 4 weeks, sorry, you've had your 4 weeks, that's it. Then I think there would have been some criticism, look, we're nearly there, and it's something we all have in life. We give a deadline and someone says, just give me a week, and then it doesn't happen. If we had known it was not going to happen, we clearly wouldn't have given the extension, but it seemed a reasonable prospect at the time. So.
Supplementary.
Yes, sir. Given the public interest in this particular case and the disruption that it has caused, does the Minister agree with me that this is a very good example of why we require robust, well-resourced and timely regulation?
Minister.
Sir, I'm an enthusiastic supporter of robust and timely regulation and enforcement action where it's appropriate, and this is one such case, sir.
Conataba St Helier, final supplementary.
Thank you. And I recognize that the minister wasn't in the post over the last 6 weeks, that it was ongoing. One of the difficulties was actually no communication from the government ongoing basis what's happening. Would the minister ensure that the residents, school, businesses, road users, the public would receive updates online, that it will be clear, is it going in on plan, would it be delivered within 2 weeks, and what's next?
Minister.
So it is absolutely appropriate that information is provided to residents who are affected. I can't give the answer I'd like to on that. I will take it back, but say in general that it is important that people are kept informed. Sir.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Minister. Question 11, the Conataba of St Martin will put to the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Conataba of St Martin.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise from which State's department the parishes should seek reimbursement in relation to the June 2026 elections of costs they have incurred, which are to be met by the States pursuant to Article 15 of the Elections Jersey Law 2002? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Article 15 of the Elections Jersey Law 2002 provides that certain costs incurred by the parishes in connection with a public election are to be met by the states. However, it does not prescribe which department or office is responsible for administering or reimbursing those payments. Historically, claims for reimbursement have been submitted through the judicial greffe, together with appropriate supporting evidence for that expenditure. Accordingly, I consider that the appropriate office to which the parishes should submit their claims is the judicial greffe, who were allocated a sufficient budget for the purpose.
Supplementary?
Yes, please, sir. I have notification that apparently there has been no agreement that the parishes should seek all their Article 15 costs from the judicial greffe, and this is why we keep going round in circles. So could the Treasury Minister investigate this and tell us where we should actually be recovering our costs from? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Well, sir, as I've mentioned, I'm of the clear opinion that it should be the judicial greffe. I have in front of me, sir, a document which is the business plan submitted by the judicial greffe in relation to public elections, which makes it clear that there is sufficient funding for the purpose of the 2026 election, including for the parishes, which are an item. There are a number of items listed for payment here, and the parishes are listed. I also note, sir, that that particular budget is roughly double what it was in 2022, which takes into consideration the additional costs of a Sunday election and so forth.
Conataba St Helier.
Thank you. Minister just mentioned there are parishes' expenses that should be covered by the government. Would the minister item what type of expenses are expected to be covered by the government for the parish?
Minister.
So as far as I'm aware, it's covered under Article 15. So if I could direct the constable to that particular article, that should give enough sufficient information. I'll just repeat the point that I made earlier, and that is that from 2022 to 2026, the budget has more or less doubled. So there should be sufficient budget there. There is also, sir, I would add, an underspend in the state's greffe in relation to the elections, albeit a small underspend, which could also assist if necessary.
Absolutely. We have Article 15, but I don't believe that the public knows what's the Article 15, and they have in front of us. And there is this miscommunication going between what parishes under Article 15 thinking that they will received from Judicial Graph, and Judicial Graph are not sure. So if the Minister will help the public and the Assembly to understand, as currently stated, what expected to be recovered from the Judicial Graph.
Minister.
So I'm afraid I don't have the information to go through items line by line. All I can say is that I'm happy to circulate the information once I have had an opportunity to review the particular article to members of the Assembly.
Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. The Minister rather tantalisingly said he had a business case with a line in it saying parishes, and I assumed there was an amount next to that line, so I was wondering what was the amount that the Judicial Graph felt should be budgeted for the parish's expenses?
Minister.
The total budget for the elections was up to 268,800, I think 270,000 in total, and for the budgets for the parishes it was 57,000, which is more or less double what it was in 2022.
Supplementary. Colin St John.
Thank you, sir. So will the Treasury Minister agree with me that the parishes invested themselves significantly in the elections, not only in hosting on a Sunday, but in the build-up to those elections? And will he take it upon himself for his department to liaise with the Judicial Graph so that the parishes can send their invoices to a single point? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
So I'm delighted to agree with the Constable. I think the parishes did an excellent job in the election, and their staff in particular. First time we've had a Sunday election, a lot of people gave their time and commitment, and they did a marvellous job in that respect. So I completely agree. With regard to assistance, sir, I would encourage the constables to submit their costs to the Judicial Graph. From my part, I will make certain that officials from Treasury speak to the Judicial Graph to ensure that the matter is dealt with swiftly and efficiently, and there are no further issues.
Supplementary.
Yes, sir. I thank the Treasury Minister for those words, sir. So would the Treasury Minister agree with me that potential savings could be made in not employing moderators for hustings in the future, but going back to the traditional volunteers chairing those meetings? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
So I think the moderators actually did an excellent job, but whether indeed we could get volunteers to do as good a job is a matter for further consideration. I'm all for good outcomes at lower cost if that can be delivered.
Final supplementary, Conatava St Martin.
I thank the Minister for his answers, and I'm pleased that we seem to be getting somewhere. I don't really have, actually I don't have a question. I was sad that I had to actually bring this before the Assembly because we were going round in circles, so thank you.
So could I thank the Contab for her non-question and for raising this matter. It's clearly a concern, and I do take the matter seriously, sir, and we need to get it sorted.
Thank you, Minister. We now move on to questions without notice. The first period of questions are for the Minister of the Environment, and the first question is from Deputy Andrews and then Deputy Jones.
Thank you very much, sir. Can the Minister confirm whether she believes Jersey can achieve its net zero target, and if so, how?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I think it's important for us as an island to acknowledge the fact that when we agreed to net zero in 2019, things were probably very different. Where we are today is we're moving forward. I still have money coming in, and I will continue to work in order to continue with the plan of net zero. We obviously some of it has been extended from 2030 to 2050, but I will move forward with net zero in the best way that we can with the funds that we have.
Supplementary. Deputy Jones.
Thank you, sir. Following the Assembly's vote in principle on P26 2026 supporting enhanced water standards for Jersey, can the Minister confirm whether she intends to bring the substantive proposals back to the Assembly on PFAS and water standards as a priority, and if so, in what time frame?
Minister.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for the question. In relation to PFAS, I think it's exceptionally important that we continue the work that has already been started. There was a significant amount of work done by my predecessor, along with the Health Minister of the time, and also Deputy Morell. So I think it's important that we continue that work. In relation to what our next steps are, sir, I think we need to, I need to sit down with all of the information that we have, and we need to make a significant plan, and we need to work on how we're going to fund that in order to move forward. But I think it is essential that it's not only me, sir, this is an Assembly matter. We have to sort out PFAS moving forward and our water quality.
Supplementary?
Yes, so thank you, and I thank the Minister for her answer. And given the concerns raised at the time around the costs and the type of treatments required to meet enhanced water standards if they are agreed, what steps will the Minister take to ensure decisions on implementation are evidence-based rather than what we saw before, which from several ministers came several different suggestions?
Minister.
Over the next few weeks, I will obviously be we've obviously had lots and lots of briefings, sir, and I won't say my brain's about to explode, but it probably is. But what I think is important is that I need to meet with the water company. I need to have discussions with my fellow ministers in relation to this matter, but I think it is important that we do continue and we have a budget, and I will, whatever we decide moving forward as well, I will ensure that I keep the scrutiny panels updated so that everybody is exactly clear as to our way forward.
Deputy Sadia.
Would the Minister outline her vision for micro-renewables in tackling carbon emissions and also helping households keep their bills down?
Minister.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for the question. I think what is important is that we need to look at what we've done, what we need to be doing moving forward. So we've been helping residents with purchasing, obviously, vehicles of different styles. We've also helped with assisting people in relation to getting away from fossil fuels and using electricity and other means. So I think that work needs to continue, but we need to look at what is the best thing and ensure that whatever we do is targeted to the people that actually need it the most. Because what we can't afford to do is, with the money that we have and the envelope that we have, we won't be able to obviously necessarily encourage everybody, but what I do think we need to do is make sure that whatever we do is targeted.
Supplementary?
So when it comes specifically to things like solar panels or mini wind turbines, I suppose you call them, on people's properties, is there any policy that the Minister would like to encourage or continue in this area?
Minister.
I think it's important, sir, to look at everything in the round. The government's just been formed. We've got different people around the table, and we've got new states members as well. I am, as an individual, not necessarily keen, as you may well know, about solar panels on fields, but I do think it's exceptionally important that where we can, and I'll be obviously working with the Infrastructure Minister and the Planning Minister and others in relation to being able to utilise solar panels where possible, state-owned buildings, for example, maybe homes and other areas. I note in some of the things I've seen that in some parts of Europe, they're actually putting garden fences, which are actually solar panels. So I think that's important. In relation to the wind farm matter, I think it's something that, as was previously discussed with the previous minister, we needed to obviously see what we were going to be able to do if we went down that road, and those discussions are still ongoing. And so it's something that's still on the table, but we need to move things forward and we need to look at everything in the rounds.
Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. Carrying on the theme of renewables, and as the Minister mentioned about solar panels on fields, there's a lot of evidence and lots of research out there that shows that farming can still carry it on under panels, maybe not the panels the JEC have currently installed. Would the Minister, as part of this working in the round, investigate different types of agriculture that can happen under solar panels?
Minister.
Sir, I think from my perspective, I wouldn't disagree with what the Deputy says, because I am aware that there may be other alternatives. I think the journey that we were on was very focused on certain things and saying certain things would happen. So the land was going to be used in a certain way. And so from my perspective, in the past, I had actually asked those questions. What other alternatives can we do? What other things can we grow potentially if we were going to have solar panels on fields? I do actually also believe that when you're putting that level of concrete or whatever on the land, then my concerns in relation to some of these type of things is about when those items are no longer usable, is to what is going to happen to the removal of them, and also the clearing up of whatever material is put into the ground. Because for me, that is also a concern moving forward.
Supplementary?
Yes, thank you, sir. Given the extreme heat that we've had over the last couple of months, there's evidence that suggests that solar panels covering fields actually prevents soil erosion and further evaporation of moisture out of the field. So is this not a potential way to keep Jersey farming with this new methods?
Minister.
In honesty, sir, I have no idea. It's not something that has been brought to my attention, but obviously as the new minister in this role, and I don't need to be an expert, sir, because I do have a lot of people who are far more knowledgeable than I am. And so obviously this will be something that we will look at, because it's going to be important for us as an island to look at all the possibilities that we have in relation to renewable energy, to ensure that we continue to move forward in relation to using less fossil fuels than we already do.
Deputy Alex Curtis.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister clarify whether the Agricultural Returns 1947 law has transferred to her following the States of Jersey Ministerial Office's 2026 order the Chief Minister signed, as it is not listed in Schedule 3 of the order that the Minister signed, changing it from Sustainable Economic Development?
Minister.
Sir, I do believe it has been, because I think you might find the person sat behind him, sir, was actually the one that said we needed it.
Supplementary?
Will she clarify whether that change was made by the order signed forming the Minister for Planning and Regulation?
Minister.
I believe it had been. If I've missed it off the list, then that I apologise, but I believed that that law that you mentioned had been transferred to me.
Colin Talbot, St Mary.
Thank you, sir. During the course of the last Assembly, various references were made to the adequacy or otherwise of the statutory nuisance law, with the Minister of the day suggesting that it was appropriate to review it. Will the Minister advise whether it is on her agenda to so review?
Minister.
Sir, I don't believe the statutory nuisance law actually does still sit with me, if I'm perfectly honest. So, but if it sits with me, then I will certainly take a look at it, but I do not believe it does.
I thank Minister for that. Will she therefore confirm that in her view it sits with the new Planning Minister?
It's an affirmative, sir.
Deputy Mortman.
Thank you, sir. Given the growing popularity of dark sky tourism, for example, as we see in Sark as a successful implementation of this strategy, will the Minister consider stronger measures to reduce light pollution, especially in the rural areas, which would protect the biodiversity, but also create new opportunities for Jersey's visitor economy?
Minister.
I would certainly look at anything that's going to change the environment if that's a possibility, but I'm not totally sure that that is feasible in relation to what we have at the present. Certainly within the countryside and certainly where I live, there are no street lights. So I think it's a matter for how we would actually achieve that.
Supplementary.
Would the Minister consider options then to look at various zones, for example, out at Grone, where this kind of tourism would lend itself?
Minister.
I'm not adverse to that, sir, but I do think we need to be aware that there's possibility, depending where agriculture is and what sort of facilities of agriculture are working, that might, to actually create zones may create us an issue with being able to use the land and the buildings in relation to agriculture and the environment. So I do think I'm happy to look at it, but I do actually think that there are other things in relation to this. As an example, certainly when people have applied to have greenhouses and light, etc., in relation to growing of produce, that then creates light within those areas, and that's where people have raised concern. So I do think we need to be careful about how we do this and where we would be doing it.
Connaught Arbor Clement.
Thank you, sir. Would you be happy with the recommendation? I beg your pardon. Sir, would you be happy with the recommendation of the parish of Grouville for this venture? We have no street lights.
Minister.
So maybe the Constable of St Clement may need to speak to the Constable of Greville before he proposes to him that he may not have any lights in his house anymore, sir, because I think maybe there might be an issue. And of course, ironically, I think if my recollection is correct, actually, it was actually in Greville where this matter was brought up.
Supplementary, Connaught Arbor? Probably not. No. Are there any other questions for this minister? If not, yes, Deputy Tellier, yes.
Would the Minister outline her position on dilapidated glass houses in the countryside?
Minister.
Sir, I do believe that we need to find some form of solution in relation to the unused greenhouses within the countryside, whether that is repurposing them for use, as some have been done, whether that's in relation to potentially being able to utilise them for other purposes, solar panels, housing or whatever. But let's be clear here, sir, that in relation to certain sites, there is not the necessary infrastructure to be able to do some of the things that people would like to do with those sites. So before I would certainly going to look at what we can do with them, but I think it's a piece of work that needs to be done, but we need to be careful about the fact that not all of those sites are easily accessible. They are in quite small areas. There's potentially not going to be main drains or water. And so I do think that it needs careful consideration, but I'm happy to have a look at it.
And does the Minister agree that, as a general rule, that change of use needs to be supported by evidence that all current uses have been exhausted, and that when it comes to glasshouse sites, it's important to engage with community groups, potential community land trusts that might be able to repurpose those, actually repurpose them for their original intention, if that's not contradictory, so that they can be used for community growing as glasshouses to provide food security for communities in the area.
You have 15 seconds, Minister.
I'm happy to look at this in the round, sir.
Thank you, Minister. The second period of questions are questions for the Minister for Health and Social Services, and the first questions are from Deputy Coles, then Deputy Dern, then the Connaught Arbor of St John. Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister outline his intention to return P116/2025, which was the proposition in relation to cannabis, back to the Assembly with the revisions that he proposed?
Minister.
So I think that will happen in due course, but I think there's still a little bit of work to be done before that happens, sir.
Supplementary.
Yes, sir. Is the Minister able to give any sort of outline of to what caused the delay and what work is going on to resolve it?
Minister.
I think the principal cause of delay is the workload that we have with the people that are doing the work, because they're undertaking a lot of work in a lot of different areas, and they're not able to get through it as quickly as we would like, notwithstanding the fact that they're putting in an enormous amount of effort. So,
Deputy Dern.
Thank you, sir. The Minister has said that signing the main construction contract for the new hospital was only completed by the narrowest of margins and has called for a review of the process. Given he has also stated publicly the CNAG intervened very heavily-handedly, and he came under pressure to carry out due diligence he considered unnecessarily. Will the Minister set out precisely what those issues were, what specifically was demanded of him at the last minute, by whom, and why he believes that due diligence was not necessary?
Minister.
Firstly, sir, if it's come across that I said the due diligence wasn't necessary, that wasn't quite the way it was. I was very disappointed that the due diligence work hadn't kept pace, particularly that the contract signing was delayed by quite a while. In my view, that the due diligence work should have been run in parallel, and the only due diligence work, in my view, that should have had to be done from the time when I had the last discussion and shook hands on the deal with the French contractors was the work that was discussed at that last meeting. I came under intense pressure at the last moment to go back to them and tell them that we couldn't sign the contract and that the whole process would be delayed until after the election, which we'd promised them we wouldn't do. And I felt that that was inappropriate given all of the circumstances. So I should be making that plainer later. I want some work to be carried out to do some lessons learned, because I don't think that the way that was handled was appropriate. So,
Supplementary.
Yes, sir, and thank the Minister for his answer, though we didn't hear what the due diligence that was needed, that was demanded of him at the last minute. But seeing as the CNAG is now confirmed that they will do a full audit of the programme is underway, does he support that full audit, and will he support the CNAG in doing that audit? And part of the review of the due diligence could be part of that audit.
Minister.
Of course, I'll support that, sir. That was the intent. That was the intention. The CNAG was going to carry out that process in any event, and it stands to reason that I would support that. The reason I can't quote offhand the information that was required of me is in the event it took about 2 weeks to compile, and I had a day and a half before we reached the close of play before the election, and I think the CNAG was expecting me to stop my work and on that and respond in detail, which would have taken me towards the end of the next week to do, and I didn't think that was an appropriate thing to do given the public interest in getting the contract signed and the safety issues that we all have in working in an aged hospital. As we've seen, theatres have been put out of use because the hospital isn't fit for purpose, and I considered there was a public safety issue to be addressed by signing that contract, sir.
Clyde St John.
Thank you, sir. Sir, further to his answer to written question 31, 2026 in February on legal controls on the prescribing of medicinal cannabis, can the Minister advise the results of the consultation that he said would be carried out in the spring with prescribers and patients, and confirm if he plans to publish the results of that consultation?
Minister.
So I couldn't quote that all offhand. I'm very happy to meet with the constable at a later stage or pass that information on, and I'll need to take advice as to whether at what time that can be published, sir. As I say, we've been busy on a number of fronts, and offhand I can't sort of bring that to mind, but I'm very happy to address that at a later stage, sir.
Connettar.
Thank you. I look forward to discussing with the Minister. So when will the Minister be publishing the proposed legal controls on CBPM prescribing practice and/or an independent inspection regime that he said his officers were actively developing back in February?
Minister.
So that work is ongoing. There's an awful lot of work to be done in the medicines law area. We've had some work done to identify the gaps. There are a number of gaps that need to be addressed, and I make the same point as I made to an earlier question. The people we've got engaged in this, whilst they're very capable and hardworking, they're having a great deal of trouble to cope because there's a very broad spread of work them to be undertaking. So,
Deputy Doublé.
Thank you, sir. Now that the assisted dying legislation has received royal assent, could the Minister outline what are the next steps in terms of setting up the service?
Minister.
I think we made it clear when this was passed through the Assembly that there was an 18-month development period so that everybody could be recruited and trained appropriately. I think we're probably running just a very short while behind schedule, but we're hoping that all of the things will have been put in place ready for the service to be available in approximately September. We had said sort of towards the end of the summer, and it's now looking like September of next year. So.
Supplementary.
I thank the Minister for his answer. Could he elaborate on what has caused the delay, and are any further resources necessary? Will he need to bid for any further resources?
Minister.
I think the resources we have should be sufficient. At least that's what I'm led to believe at this point in time. When we're talking about a delay, I think we're only talking about a delay of a couple of weeks. So I wouldn't really know offhand what the reason for that would be, but it is only a very slight delay, sir.
Deputy Alex Curtis.
My question has been asked, sir.
Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. Given that employment and recruitment is usually not something that ministers would get involved with, and it tends to be administrative or dealt with by the State's Employment Board, could the minister confirm whether he has sought to be involved in any recruitment of staff personally?
Minister.
This sounds like it's heading towards something specific, and it may be easier if the Deputy alludes to more directly if there is something specific. So,
Supplementary.
Can the minister confirm whether he has given any staff any direction with regard to what his preferences may be in consideration of recruitment processes within his department?
this is a difficult one. So I know that it's not up to me to do recruitment. That's up to other people. In the course of discussion, I think we all discuss what our preferences might be. And if I've made the mistake of discussing what my preferences might be, that may well be the case that I've done that. I really don't know. There's clearly something specific, and I can't really address that until I know. But I know full well that I'm not in a position to affect who does and who doesn't get employed.
Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. Can the Minister advise what consideration, if any, has been given to using AI in radiology?
Minister.
I can't make any comments specific to radiology off the top of my head, but I know that AI is becoming a real issue. It was discussed at our digital implementation board meeting recently, and there is work ongoing in all departments to see how AI might be applied. It's coming onto our agenda as an official item. So.
Supplementary.
Yes, sir. The Minister referred to AI in this context as an issue, but there is a lot of evidence to suggest that AI, its ability to read images, is far superior than that of the human eye. Will the Minister then bring this up in the discussions to look to the advantages and help improve our radiology department by using AI?
Minister.
All of these things are currently being looked at. I'm not entirely certain that AI isn't already employed. I believe that a lot of our images are sent abroad to be analysed at a central point that specialises in that work. And I believe that AI is employed, but everything has to be subject to human ratification, obviously, sir.
Any further questions for this Minister? Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister update the Assembly on the position with regard to the Chief Pharmacist role in the Department of Health, please?
Minister.
Yeah, that role, I think, is currently being advertised. I think the structure of the pharmacy department has been rearranged, and the arrangements going forward won't be exactly the same as they've been in the past. And there is work being undertaken at the moment to make sure that all the right people are in all the right places, sir.
Supplementary.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister give an assurance that, given what he's just said about the medicines law, that he will get the appropriate pharmacy professional advice to actually make sure that he is complying with the law in relation to pharmacy services across the piece, please?
Minister.
We will most certainly be doing that, sir.
Deputy Taddeo.
So what are the procedures that the Minister would like to prioritise reducing the waiting times for?
Minister.
That's a very difficult one, sir, because reducing waiting times isn't a simple business. It requires a whole system improvement. It would require more recruitment and better facilities than we have. We're actually working as hard as we can on that. It's a real priority for this year, and it is going forward. However, until we have a new hospital with the extra facilities, it's going to be difficult to make any meaningful progress, though we will make as much progress as we can, sir.
Supplementary?
So is the Minister likely to carry out any work on assessing the impact that private work has on waiting lists and whether there are any unintended consequences to public waiting lists from the use of private work?
Minister.
So we're always at pains to make sure that we maintain a real focus on the public work, though we do have to try and accommodate as much private work as we can without compromising that, because the private work does bring in revenue, which helps us to spend, well, gives us money to spend in the health service, which in turn helps us to reduce the public waiting lists. But it's a delicate balance, and that's always under review, sir.
Any more questions for this Minister? Yes.
Yeah, if there are no others, so I'll use my second question as a kind of supplementary. So when it comes to the private work, could the Minister outline whether he thinks that a true market rate is being charged for the use of the facilities by the consultants for the work that they do at the General Hospital? Is this something he would like to look into?
Minister.
I'm certainly happy to look into that. To the best of my knowledge, well, perhaps it's an assumption on my part, but I would imagine that is the case. We also have to be certain that we give the clinicians sufficient private work, because that forms part of their income. And if we, it's quite simply, if we don't allow them to make enough money on private work, they won't come to Jersey, or they'll go elsewhere. So once again, these things are all very delicate balances, and we do try and keep an eye on them as best we can, sir.
And I suppose a supplementary, so is the Minister willing to look at alternative models? It strikes me that we don't do that, make that provision in other areas of the public sector. So we don't rely on teachers to come to Jersey to be able to do private work within the schools that they're teaching in during the daytime, to run private classes on the side. But we do that at the hospital. So would the Minister give consideration as to whether the underlying philosophy behind that is a sound one, and that actually, especially if it's putting pressure, because it's the same consultants doing the same work, on those lists, on those public waiting lists, is that something the Minister could look at in the round?
Minister.
So I think the underlying philosophy is broadly speaking correct. I don't know much about education, but it doesn't run the same way as a health service does. The incentives are different, and in my view, sir, they're just not directly comparable. Thank you.
Deputy Chair.
Thank you, sir. Today in the JEP there was information about the support service for miscarriage for women, and I was just wondering if the Minister knew if that support was specific counselling specifically around miscarriage, or was it referral to general counselling?
Minister.
On this one, sir, unfortunately, I've not seen the article, so I don't know what it contains. So it's very difficult for me to answer that in those circumstances, sir.
Well, there are only 30 seconds left, I think, which brings that period to an end. Thank you, Minister. The third period of questions are for the Chief Minister, and the first question is from Deputy Alex Curtis.
Thank you, sir. Following the CNAG report on Revenue Jersey on the 3rd of July, which concluded, to quote, "There is evidence that Revenue Jersey is inefficient due to digital immaturity, which increases cost and increases risk," will he advise how he is working with digital services to ensure sufficient support is given to Revenue Jersey to increase their digital maturity?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. On the whole, that report was fairly positive, although there were one or two not so positive and appropriate observations. I know the Treasury and Resources Minister is looking particularly at that point, and I can confirm it is the government's intention to achieve digital maturity as soon as possible, sir. We fall short of that in many areas across government, and that's something we are going to tackle.
Thank you. The Chief Minister says it's an ambition, and to take Revenue Jersey, that department has seen significant capital expenditure on multiple phases of the revenue transformation programme. However, the report And perhaps Ireland's experience is that capital delivery has not exactly followed through to digital maturity in the organisation. So how does the Chief Minister plan to ensure digital investment across government improves digital maturity?
Well,
Chief Minister.
I'm not sure I agree totally with the CNAG's recommendations and observations. In fact, I question quite a lot of them. Members will probably know that in the last 10 years we've received over 1,000 recommendations, of which we've implemented about 999 of them, but it just doesn't stop. One day, I'm not sure when we will be good enough, but of course we take all these recommendations seriously. I know the Treasury Minister is focused on this. We have made considerable improvements with Revenue Jersey, but there is still a long way to go. The Treasury Minister's aware of that and is looking at it closely, sir. We need to expedite that because it's essential, especially in Revenue Jersey, that we get this right, because if it doesn't, it could have an impact on our cash flow. And also, we want to make sure that islanders are getting their tax statements and businesses are being dealt with properly and accurately.
Any other questions for the Chief Minister? If there are no questions for the Chief Minister, then that concludes business for this meeting. And I invite the Chair of PPC to propose the arrangement of public business for future meetings. Chair of PPC.
Thank you, sir. So there isn't particularly much to be said under the arrangement of public business. What is shown on compared to what was already shown on the order paper, there is an amendment to P60 that was lodged today. So as things stand at the moment, the meeting on the 8th of September probably won't go beyond Tuesday, but we are yet to hit some of the lodging deadlines. So please bear that in mind for the September sitting. It may be worth also just reminding members that Wednesday to Friday are always identified as continuation days, and they might be used if business is required, but at the moment that's where we stand on the current order paper, and I propose the arrangement of public business. Thank you.
Thank you. Are members content now to adjourn? The State stand adjourned until 9:30 on Tuesday, the 8th of September.